In the stillness of the desert winds and the hum of distant cities, something ancient has awakened. Hidden from the world's glaring spotlight, a delicate web has slowly, patiently been spun. Across borders, cultures, for decades, whispers traveled through sand and wire. Iran, the ancient empire reborn in the modern age, was not alone. Beneath formal treaties and public denials lay handshakes unseen, pacts signed not in ink, but in blood. Faith and shared ambition. These were not alliances forged in conference halls. They were cultivated in the ruins of wars past, in the battlefields of Syria, the mountains of Lebanon, the valleys of Iraq. Slowly, meticulously they grew, and now they stir. The Shia Crescent, once a geopolitical theory, now pulses with coordinated life. In Baghdad, in Damascus, in Sana'a and Beirut, signals align. Movements once isolated now resonate with a common rhythm, not as chaos, but choreography. But this is not a march of tanks and armies. It is a quiet storm. Proxy fighters, fueled by ideology and backed by unseen hands, move with precision. Their messages grow louder, their enemies more uncertain. And far beyond the Middle East, the game board shifts again. To the east, China watches, not as a bystander, but a silent architect of alternatives. Russia, bruised but unbowed, shakes hands with Tehran behind closed doors. Across the seas, in places where Western eyes seldom glance, alliances form in hushed tones, economic, military, and ideological. Together they pose a question not spoken aloud. What if the old world order is no longer the only one? But perhaps the most silent revolution of all lies in the circuits and signals. Iran cyber operatives trained in digital warfare can now strike without a single soldier, their reach global, their message untraceable. In a world run by code, a few keystrokes may now do what once took an army. And so, the world stands on the edge, not of immediate war, but of transformation. The secret alliances have activated. The ripple is becoming a wave. The question is not if the world will change. The question is, how fast? And whether we are ready for the shock that follows. The rise of the shadow network refers to Iran's deliberate and long-term strategy of building a web of covert relationships and influence channels that stretch far beyond its borders. This network includes not just formal diplomatic ties with allied nations, but more critically, secretive alliances with armed groups, political movements, and ideological partners who share common goals with the Iranian regime. These alliances are not always visible in traditional geopolitical terms. They thrive in the grey zones, operating behind closed doors, through intermediaries, unofficial channels, and ideological sympathies. What makes this network powerful is not only its reach, but its adaptability. It can operate through religion, economics, technology, and insurgency. It is built on shared narratives of resistance against Western dominance, mutual defense against regional rivals like Saudi Arabia and Israel, and the strategic use of cultural and religious identity to forge unity. Over the past few decades, Iran has supported and helped grow non-state actors such as Hezbollah in Lebanon, various popular mobilization forces in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, and groups in Syria and Afghanistan. These groups are often armed, trained, and ideologically influenced by Iran, and they function not just as allies, but as extensions of Iran's regional will. This network allows Iran to influence politics, challenge enemies, and project power without directly involving its own state apparatus in overt confrontation. The shadow network is designed for plausible deniability. Iran can strike or apply pressure in a country through these proxies without leaving clear fingerprints, making retaliation or accountability more complex on the international stage. Furthermore, this covert web is not limited to the Middle East. Iran has developed ties with sympathetic governments and groups in South America, Africa, and parts of Asia. It has also created economic survival tools through barter systems, cryptocurrency use, and underground trade routes to evade sanctions. What makes this development alarming to global powers is that this network does not require traditional warfare to be effective. It can undermine governments, disrupt economies, inflame sectarian tensions, and extend Tehran's influence with minimal visibility. Its true strength lies in its invisibility and in its ability to evolve, spread, and strike from unexpected places. As tensions in the world escalate, this shadow network is no longer lying dormant. It is coming to life. The Shia Crescent, a term coined to describe Iran's strategic sphere of influence stretching from its western borders through Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and parts of Yemen, has evolved from a theoretical concept into a living geopolitical force. This crescent represents regions where Shia populations are dominant or significantly influential, and where Iran has managed to insert ideological, political, and military presence. The awakening of the Shia Crescent is not sudden, but the result of decades of meticulous strategy, diplomacy, and proxy engagement. Iran has used historical, religious, and cultural ties to build strong connections with Shia communities in these regions, fostering unity through shared narratives of resistance, persecution, and empowerment. In Iraq, Iran has positioned itself as both a political ally and military backer. Following the fall of Saddam Hussein, Tehran quickly cultivated ties with the new Shia-led government and supported various militias under the umbrella of the Popular Mobilization Forces. In Syria, Iran backed the Assad regime during the civil war, not only to preserve an ally, but also to maintain a critical land bridge that connects Iran to Lebanon via Iraq and Syria. This corridor allows for the movement of weapons, resources, and personnel with strategic freedom. In Lebanon, Hezbollah serves as Iran's most advanced and loyal proxy, equipped with missiles and deeply embedded in the country's political fabric. The group's military strength and influence are often regarded as a direct extension of Iranian policy. In Yemen, Iran's support for the Houthi rebels has created another pressure point against Saudi Arabia, and given Tehran reach near the Red Sea and critical shipping lanes. The recent signs of awakening are clear. Increased coordination among these groups, unified rhetoric against common adversaries, and synchronized military posturing indicate that the Shia Crescent is not just a static alignment, but a dynamic, activated network. These alliances are no longer defensive or dormant. They are assertive, ready to challenge regional rivals and influence outcomes in global diplomacy. Through joint operations, intelligence sharing, and the projection of soft power via religious and cultural institutions, the Crescent now acts with an unprecedented level of cohesion. This resurgence is reshaping the regional balance of power and signaling a new chapter where Iran and its allies intend to play a more commanding and visible role on the world stage. The role of proxy warfare in Iran's strategic playbook is one of its most defining and effective tools for regional influence. Rather than engaging in direct state-to-state conflict, which would expose it to global condemnation or military retaliation, Iran has mastered the art of proxy engagement. This involves cultivating, funding, training, and ideologically aligning with non-state armed groups that operate on behalf of Iranian interests while maintaining their own identities. These groups act as force multipliers, expanding Iran's reach without putting its own troops directly on the battlefield. This strategy also provides Iran with plausible deniability, allowing it to strike or destabilize adversaries while avoiding direct blame. Groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and various Shia militias in Iraq such as Kataib Hezbollah and Asaib Akhel al-Haq are key components of this proxy network. These entities not only fight Iran's enemies, but also serve as instruments of political pressure, social influence, and asymmetric warfare. They are embedded within local populations and often hold legitimate political power, which gives them protection and leverage. For example, Hezbollah is not just a militia but a major political party in Lebanon with social service networks and popular support. Similarly, in Iraq, many of Iran-backed militias have been absorbed into the state's security apparatus, blurring the lines between national defense and foreign-aligned militia activity. Proxy warfare also allows Iran to wage long-term campaigns without exhausting its own military or economy. It can sustain pressure in multiple arenas, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, while retaining strategic flexibility. These proxies often act in coordination, sharing intelligence and resources, and responding to broader Iranian directives even when operating in distinct theaters. This coordination has become more pronounced in recent years, especially as regional tensions with Israel and Saudi Arabia escalate. The Houthis, for instance, have launched attacks on Saudi targets using advanced drones and missiles believed to be supplied or guided by Iranian expertise. Meanwhile, Iraqi militias have threatened American forces and assets under Iran's broader regional objectives. By relying on proxies, Iran turns every regional conflict into a layered battleground where its influence is felt even without a formal presence. This strategy effectively transforms local conflicts into parts of a greater geopolitical struggle. Enabling Tehran to punch far above its conventional military weight. As these proxies grow in capability and boldness, the danger lies not only in their actions but in their potential to trigger broader confrontations involving multiple nations. A shift in global alliances is redefining the balance of power, and Iran has positioned itself strategically within this transformation. Historically isolated by Western sanctions and diplomatic pressure, Iran has steadily pivoted eastward, forging stronger ties with countries that challenge the Western-led world order. Chief among these are China and Russia, two global powers that share Iran's interest in reducing American influence across the globe. These relationships are not just opportunistic. They are based on long-term strategic convergence, particularly in the areas of energy, military cooperation, trade, and geopolitical alignment. Iran's formal entry into organizations like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, and its candidacy for expanded BRICS membership signal a broader desire to participate in multilateral frameworks that oppose Western hegemony. Iran's alliance with Russia has deepened significantly, especially following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Both countries under heavy Western sanctions have increased economic cooperation and military collaboration. Iran has supplied drones to Russia, while both states explore joint ventures in oil, gas, and weapons development. These actions send a clear message that global power is no longer defined solely by US and NATO leadership. Similarly, China's Belt and Road Initiative offers Iran both economic relief and strategic relevance. With a 25-year cooperation agreement signed in 2021, China and Iran are planning extensive infrastructure projects, energy investments, and trade expansions. This relationship gives Iran an economic lifeline and diplomatic backing from a global superpower. Beyond these giants, Iran has also sought new allies in Latin America and Africa, where anti-Western sentiment and the search for alternative partnerships run deep. By offering technical aid, military training, and ideological solidarity, Iran is expanding its footprint in areas previously considered peripheral to its national interest. These moves are reshaping the architecture of international relations. Iran is no longer merely surviving under sanctions, it is maneuvering, networking, and helping to forge a multipolar world, where power is decentralized and influence is shared among rising coalitions. As the West grapples with internal divisions and overextension abroad, Iran and its partners are quietly crafting a counterbalance. Shifting the gravitational center of global politics, this transformation suggests that the next major conflicts may not erupt solely from isolated regional disputes, but from the clash between competing global systems struggling for dominance in a rapidly changing world. Iran's development and deployment of cyber tactics and digital warfare capabilities have become a crucial extension of its modern strategy for influence and defense. Unlike traditional warfare, cyber operations offer Iran the ability to project power globally, bypassing borders and physical limitations. This evolution has allowed Tehran to compete in the 21st century battle space, where information, infrastructure and perception are as critical as tanks and missiles. Iran has invested significantly in building a network of skilled cyber operatives, many trained in domestic programs, while others gain experience through collaboration with allied nations like Russia and China. These units operate under the command of various branches of Iran's military and intelligence apparatus, especially the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, which oversees much of the country's strategic digital initiatives. Iranian cyber tactics include a wide range of operations, from stealing classified government information and disrupting financial systems to launching misinformation campaigns and attacking industrial infrastructure. Over the past decade, Iran has been linked to attacks on banks in the United States, hacking attempts on Israeli water systems, and Saudi disruptions in Saudi oil facilities. These acts demonstrate not only capability but also intent, a desire to counterbalance the technological superiority of its adversaries through asymmetric digital tools. Cyber warfare also allows Iran to exert influence during peacetime, creating pressure and instability without drawing immediate military retaliation. With attacks often masked or misattributed, the fog of digital conflict offers Iran the plausible deniability it uses so effectively in its proxy warfare strategy. In addition to offensive capabilities, Iran has improved its cyber defenses, preparing for counterattacks and digital espionage. It has built domestic infrastructure to shield its networks and minimize reliance on Western technology, while fostering innovation in indigenous software and surveillance tools. Iran's cyber strategy also includes psychological operations and narrative warfare, particularly on social media. State-backed accounts and troll farms are used to sway public opinion, spread disinformation, and stir unrest in both regional adversaries and global powers. These operations, persistent and tailored to exploit societal divisions and democratic vulnerabilities. As the world becomes increasingly digitized, Iran's cyber presence will only grow in importance. It allows Tehran to challenge much stronger nations, influence far-reaching events, and position itself as a technologically sophisticated actor in the emerging global order. The global repercussions of Iran's activated alliances are vast and far-reaching, with the potential to unsettle international stability across multiple dimensions. As Iran strengthens its covert networks, leverages proxy groups, engages in cyber warfare, and aligns with non-Western powers, the ripple effects extend well beyond the Middle East. One of the most immediate consequences is the threat to global energy markets. Iran's influence in the Persian Gulf and its ties with the Houthis in Yemen give it the ability to disrupt vital shipping lanes, particularly the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. These choke points are crucial for the transport of oil and gas, and any instability or conflict in these areas could send energy prices soaring, affecting economies from Europe to Asia. Such disruptions are not hypothetical. They have occurred in the past and could escalate quickly if Iran's network fully mobilizes. Another major repercussion is the erosion of Western diplomatic influence. As Iran draws closer to countries like Russia, China, and other members of the Global South, a new bloc of resistance is forming against what is perceived as Western dominance and double standards. These nations are increasingly trading in local currencies, bypassing the US dollar and creating new financial systems outside of Western-controlled frameworks like SWIFT. Iran's integration into these systems not only helps it survive sanctions, but encourages other nations to consider similar paths, potentially weakening the effectiveness of Western economic pressure tactics. The more normalized Iran becomes within alternative global structures, the harder it becomes for Western powers to isolate or control it diplomatically. Security repercussions are also significant. Iran's alliances and proxies create multiple flashpoints across the region: Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Gaza, and Yemen, all of which could erupt into conflict and potentially draw in regional and global powers. These zones become arenas for broader ideological, religious, and strategic contests. Moreover, Iran's cyber capabilities mean that attacks on infrastructure, banking systems, or media networks in distant countries could occur without warning, destabilizing societies far removed from the physical conflict zones. Finally, the psychological and ideological impact is profound. Iran's assertiveness, especially under sanction and pressure, sends a message to other marginalized states that defiance is possible and can even shift global dynamics. This emboldens similar powers, potentially leading to a world more fragmented, less cooperative, and increasingly shaped by regional competition and digital warfare. As the layers of secrecy peel away, it becomes increasingly clear that Iran is no longer a passive actor operating in the shadows. It is an orchestrator of a complex and deliberate strategy that stretches across borders, continents, and digital frontiers. Its network of covert alliances, ideological partners, and strategic proxies has awakened not with chaos, but with calculated intent. The Shia Crescent pulses with coordination. Cyber weapons hum beneath the surface of modern infrastructure, and global alliances quietly realign in defiance of traditional power structures. What was once dismissed as regional maneuvering has now matured into a global force, subtly yet powerfully influencing the course of international politics, security, and economy. We are witnessing a transformation in the architecture of world power, a shift not driven by loud declarations but by silent movements, not by conquest but by control of influence. Iran's rise through shadow networks, technological prowess, and diplomatic pivots signals a future that will challenge our assumptions and demand a new understanding of global conflict and cooperation. The question is no longer whether change is coming, but how prepared we are to face its full magnitude. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unfolding reality of our world. Stay aware, stay informed, and always question the forces shaping the future. Until we meet again, good luck, and may clarity guide your path through the noise of global uncertainty.